I'm not saying there wasn't times when the jizya was used oppressionally, but I'm saying that
it's not applicable today. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that obviously the jizya, obviously there's different people that have different interpretations, but the jizya is less than the zakat, which is because basically.
Go on. I'm aware of what the zakat is. I know what the
jizya is
zakat
the tax in it. That's for the non-Muslims, but the tax for the Muslim is more, and you have to go to war. Now I'm sure there's other things that kind of.
Right, hold on. Can we just stick on that for a second?
Go on.
There's a difference between the zakat and the jizya.
Yeah.
The zakat is only for Muslims, and it's not a charity because it doesn't cater for anybody that's a non-Muslim. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
Right, that's a fact. Okay. The zakat is not a charity. It's in the reliance of the traveller, which is the Sharia law guidebook, that you can only pay money from the zakat to Muslims. It's not available for non-Muslims. It's not a charity. It's under a veil of deception. Do you hear that? Right, now let me talk about jizya. Jizya, I can prove it to you. I've got it here.
Yeah.
The jizya is there to humiliate. It is a point to it. It's not just for protection. It's to humiliate someone. And that's the Jews and the Christians.
But what I'm saying is, in the Bible, they didn't feel like that.
Say again?
When the Muslims went to Jerusalem, they didn't feel like that. But when the other ones invaded through Persia, they might have felt like that. So I'm saying the political.
Okay, so you're saying there's a time difference of Islam. Are you saying Islam changes?
No. I'm saying based upon the ruler, because obviously.
Okay. There were more lenient Islamic rulers than others. Is that what you're saying?
Rulers, and obviously none of them was infallible.
Right. Okay. There were more lenient Islamic rulers than others. Like, for example, Abu Bakr was always trying to appease Muhammad and saying, you're a nutcase, stop chopping people's heads off. He was more lenient, right? But because he wasn't the caliph, because he wasn't the main man, it wasn't his word that went. This is why Abu Bakr didn't want to give Muhammad his daughter.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, you don't know about that?
No, definitely.
Aisha was Abu Bakr's daughter.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
So, in other words, whatever Muhammad said had to go regardless. So, when you go through the caliphs, yes, there was some you spoke about Umar.
Second caliph.
Yeah, Umar invaded a lot of countries.
Including Jerusalem.
I've got it here. But he gave them the option. It's like he shouted it out. You know, like how a general will send people to a siege city and go, look, you got three choices. You either come to Islam, you're gonna die, or you pay the jizya. This is what Umar did. Now this is relevant to the Quran, brother. The Quran doesn't stop according to Islamic law. It doesn't change because we're in the 20th century. It's just that the rulers, because they had a better conscience, chose to walk more leniently.
No.
Yes, brother, because if you go to the Quran as it is, and the real authentic Muslims, they talk about jihad, right, in all its aspects.
Yeah, but that was something that was even created in the second.
You're trying to put
caliph.
it, brother. You're trying to put it in the 7th century, and we have to establish. Therefore,
I'm 100% sure about that, bro.
We have to. Okay, so now you have to
Before
go
that,
with
jihad was struggle.
Right,
Before that, jihad was struggle, and it represented the internal.
Let me read to you what Muhammad said about jihad.
Yeah, go on.
Because we're jumping all over the place, but I want to talk about one subject.
I'm telling you, before it was an internal struggle, my brother.
Let's go to jihad.
So I just put £20 super chat and said, RASPECT, you are wrong about zakat and jizya. Man gave me peace and told me I'm wrong on that.
Really? That's big still.
Your lack of knowledge about Islamic rules you. I hear you still. Come down to the park and correct me, man. You get me? Shout out everyone inside. You don't know. We out here on the front line.
Let me find this jihad.
What I'm very good at doing is separating the Christian rulers or people that claim themselves Christian rulers.
We're talking about jihad
and
now,
Islamic
brother.
rulers.
Brother,
No,
stop
I'm just
jumping
saying
around
that
like a grasshopper.
you have to separate
You
it from the
keep going
religion
jizya
and what the
to
religion
Umar
is teaching the
to
people.
jihad. Brother,
You know, like that.
come on, man. I've
hear
been
you,
talking for
I
a long
hear
time. I don't mind reasoning with you. But
Go on,
come on, man.
uncle. Go on.
All right,
Got your
all right.
kid.
All right.
I'm
Now-
here the Undertaker though. No, check.
It's all good. It's all good. Right. Now this is the tafsir for Surah 2946. Now what Surah 29:46 is, let me read what the Quran says first. It says, and dispute ye not with the people of the book, except with means better than mere disputation. So you can't just argue, you have to do it better than that. And it gives you instructions how. It said, unless it be with those of them who inflict wrong and injury. Yeah, that's fair enough. Hold on, that's fair enough.
That's the key point.
Don't jump.
That's the key point.
Don't
Unless
jump.
it's with those who
Don't jump.
pain and injury.
I'm finished.
That's the key
Right?
point. I ain't gonna lie.
Fair enough, it's saying defend yourself. Common sense. But then it goes on, it says, we believe in the revelation which has come down to us and in that which came down to you. Our Allah and your Allah is one. And it is him we bow to. Right. In Islam, in brackets.
And the Christian king
Right,
said
hold
when
on,
they came,
let me qualify
he drew a
that.
line in the sand like this, and he said the difference between me and you is like this line.
Let me read the tafsir on this. Now you know what the tafsir is, bro, yeah?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go to the top tafsir.
I'm not really a scholarly guy, but go on.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm just going to read you what their scholar, the best scholar they have, says about this verse. Now this is under the veil I'm talking about. Ibn Kathir says about that verse we read, and speak to him mildly. This is the instructions that Muslims are given. Speak to him mildly. Perhaps he may accept admonition or fear. And then it gives a quote of Surah 20:44. Allah says here, and there's an Arabic. You can take a snapshot of this if you want. Except with such as them as do wrong. Fair enough, that was in the verse. Meaning those who turn away from the truth. I turn from the truth every week.
Yeah, but that's an interpretation.
I turn from the truth every week. So this is
that's a
talking
man's
about me.
interpretation.
It's talking about me.
That's
No,
man's interpretation still. I can't lie, Papa.
I do right. It says, except with those who do wrong.
Do wrong.
Now,
What's wrong?
According to this, wrong is turning away from the truth. That's all it's qualifying it so far. Let me go on. Turning a blind eye to clear evidence. So someone should be showing me the Quran and I'm ignoring it. Being stubborn and arrogant. I'm not an arrogant man. If I am, I'll apologize for it. But then it says, in this case, if you're stubborn, in other words, I believe Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe that every one of us is a sinner. And I believe that Islam is of the devil. And no one can change my mind. So I qualify. Because no one's going to move me from that.
I think that third one.
No, right? And it says, in this case,
that third one. The other two.
in this case, you should progress from debate to combat, fighting them in such a way as to deter them from committing aggression against you, Allah says. So what do you think about that? Someone debating me, and the instruction given by Allah is that if I'm standing my ground and saying Jesus is Lord and Islam is of the devil, that Muslims should progress from debate to combat, to put me under the foot. That's Ibn Kathir.
Yeah, I don't know. I ain't really into the interpretation
What
thing of the
you don't? So you don't accept Ibn Kathir?
No, I'm not really that. Like,
Okay.
Obviously, because I can't.
Right. Ibn
because I
Kathir
can't-
is the
I
most
know who
premier
Ibn Kathir is.
scholar that Islam has.
But you have to.
It's a top man.
No, but bro, you're acting like all
He's the
Muslims-
best scholar.
No,
It's true, brother.
No, you're acting like all Muslims deal with.
I'm not saying all
like that.
Muslims follow this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying this is what's under the veil of deception, hiding. This is the real deen of Islam. I'm not talking about the good Muslims who don't know about this,
The
bro.
thing is, when you take it out of the Quran verse is very clear. It's
You
those
can't
who are
take it
fighting
out. You can't take it out of the
No, but I'm
Quran.
saying the Quran verse is very clear that it's those who are fighting you and doing wrong. Very clear. Then
But it doesn't
man
say
have
that.
to take it
We're
out of the
talking
Quran.
about debate.
So if anything, I'd
Talking
say
about
that
debate,
that's a corruption of the Quran. The Quran.
Talking about debate, bro.
Huh?
Debate. That's what it's talking about. Debating.
Yeah. What's your
It
point?
says you should progress from debate. It's talking about.
I think that's a scholarly thing, but I think the Christian scholars
Okay,
at that same
that's
time.
fine, you don't want to admit it, that's
I
fine.
think the Christian scholars at that same time. If you
It
said
just
Jesus,
seems wrong, doesn't it?
If you said Jesus was of
But
the
you
devil,
don't want to say. You don't want to say.
No.
You don't want to
I'm
say
saying-
because you got Muslim friends.
No. It's not that. It's
You don't want to
bro.
say. I can
No,
understand
bro.
that.
When
I
man
can
said
understand
Jesus
the
is
man
of the
don't want to
devil
defend,
under the
offend
Christian
people.
thing, they got burnt at a stake. You think you could say Jesus? You believe Jesus? You think a Muslim could stand up in a? No, listen.
You don't fear anybody. You don't fear anybody.
No, I'm saying a Muslim
So just
couldn't
speak
do
the
that
truth.
in a Christian state.
Just speak the truth.
I'm saying a Muslim,
Yeah.
even if a Christian said that they don't believe in certain things in the church, they was burnt on the stake as witches.
Right, are we changing the subject again,
No, I'm
bro?
just saying that actions and interpretations of scholars, yeah, super interpret. So okay, let me give you a good example. Yeah, the best Christian scholars. Yeah, what they say is the biggest and best Christian scholars. Yeah,
give me an example of one.
They will be white. And they will be from the Catholic Church and all of that. That's where
race discussion.
No, it's not. That's where the best scholars are.
More legs.
But you don't necessarily, bro. You don't necessarily follow. Yeah, and most of the black Christians in this part don't follow those scholars' interpretations. You understand? But them scholars at one point use their interpretations of the Bible. They use the Bible in order to justify
let me explain it to you,
their actions.
Remember you said you don't know. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But let me explain to you, right? Ibn Kathir is the most respected scholar in all Islamic jurisprudence. Do you understand what I just said to you?
Yeah.
So if you question him as a Muslim, you go against the very deen of Islam. It's like only a rung below Muhammad. Go to Ali Dawa, Muhammad Hijab, go to anybody and ask him about Ibn Kathir. He's the one Muslims go to.
No, I would like to hear.
So if he says something, he's got a correct interpretation of a verse.
Well, that's what they say about the Catholic scholars as well. They say that they've got the correct interpretation. But it's not the
well, but I'm just trying to say to you.
No, right? I hear what you're saying. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I don't agree with the scholar. If that's the interpretation, I don't agree with it.
Let me rephrase. Let me rephrase your statement. You don't agree with the ethic.
No, like me, I deal with the Quran. I don't really deal with like.
That's my question. That's a question to you. Do you agree with the ethic? Do you agree with the ethic of this
religion? I can see other people's interpretations adding corruption, but I can't see the corruption in the actual Quran.
With the ethic of what Ibn Kathir has spoken about the way Muslims are supposed to operate?
I don't agree with what you just read now.
Good.
But Therefore, I'd like to hear a Muslim
you know why?
It.
You know why?
I'd like to hear a Muslim try to explain it though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's Muslims all over the park. Let me read you about jihad, bro. Let me read you about jihad. And there's many good-hearted Muslims here. In fact, the guy who was just here in the glasses is a new Muslim convert, and it's a good man because he's just looking for God. But he's found a counterfeit, and you have to dig deep and put a counterfeit £5 note under the blue light to see it for what it is.
I think the Christians are saying that about Muslims. Muslims are saying that about Christians, so it's what it is.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you, brother?
Yeah, I hear you still.
Yeah,
but
most Muslims don't know about this. They just talk to defend Muhammad, parrot fashion.
But not every Muslim believes that.
You're doing, also, KANE, is it? Isn't that the same thing you're doing? You're saying they talk to defend with a passion.
Yeah.
Right now, you said you believe what you believe, and no one can change that. Yeah, you know what's right.
True, but
yeah?
then
so
again,
are you doing the same exact thing?
No, and I tell you why. I tell you why. Because I'm willing to take questions. I'm willing to have Jesus scrutinized. I'm willing to have the whole Christian faith put under the microscope and answer any questions that I can. And if I don't, I'm God willing, humble enough to say I don't know. I'm not afraid of scrutiny because I know I have the truth. And this is how you know when someone has the truth, they're not afraid of scrutiny. Most Muslims, they start shaking. They start shaking once he starts scrutinizing Muhammad because they know Muhammad's behavior.
I say the layman.
Go and find me one.
I say the layman.
Okay, if they're a layman,
I'm saying
they're okay, but if they're
yeah, but listen.
I said most Muslims start shaking. Muhammad Hijab, God bless him, right, will try and change the subject. I'm not saying he's going to shake, he'll change the subject because he's aware of the real deen. So he uses taqiyya and he tries to divert away from the topic. No, it's not only Shia, it's practiced by all Muslims. This is what they tell you. Right?
No, I don't believe in
right? And I'm talking about, I only mentioned the name, right, hijab, because I'm talking generically about a type of Orthodox Muslim that knows the deen and knows how to divert away from it using his brain.
Is most Christians,
layman would just defend parrot fashion. Did you hear what I said to you? Layman would just defend parrot fashion, and a scholar or someone learned that wants to be able to sleep with children and beat his wife would divert away from the topic. Do you hear me, brother?
I don't think anyone's trying to sleep with children, though. Do you get it?
Okay.
I think there might be.
Are you willing to stay on this topic? Are you willing to stay on this topic?
What do you mean this topic?
About sleeping with children. If I show you,
no, because you're saying.
I'll show you.
No, you're saying man them are justifying it so they can sleep with children.
Yes.
And I'm saying that most of the men that are probably justifying that take that stance, they probably ain't ever gonna try and sleep with a child. So I'm saying that you're being a bit.
It's a good argument. It's a good argument. Let me respond.
I think mostly what they're trying to do. 1 minute.
Let me respond.
What they're trying to do.
Don't change the topic.
No.
I'm
saying I think mostly what some people try to do, and I think things look sticky upon people when they do it. Is they see the verse, they think it's Sahih, so they try to make explanations.
They think it's what? They think it's authentic.
Right. So they try to make explanations for what was happening in that time. But you're not going to see a man that's justifying it so that he can go then sleep with a 6-year-old.
Okay.
I don't think that's a genuine statement.
Right,
and even amongst the people that think it's Sahih, there's whole sects and a whole denominations of Islam, Muslims, that have different interpretations of that whole Aisha thing. It's not every man that's going to come out here and say they believe Aisha was 6.
Right. Let me respond. When there's disagreement of that nature, brother, right? Muslims should always go back to the Quran, right, and the Hadith.
Yeah.
And any Muslim that veers away from the Quran and Hadith is not a Muslim.
Yeah.
Because they're becoming apostate by A, not believing what Allah is supposed to have said in the Quran, and B, not being in full submission to Muhammad through the Hadith, because that's what they're commanded to do. Obey Allah and obey the Messenger. So when you see a Muslim with a good conscience, they see the verse about sleeping with children.
Not in the
All right,
verse.
hold on.
Not a verse.
Let me rephrase it.
Hadith,
No, hold on.
hadith.
Let me
No,
rephrase it. Let me rephrase it.
It's not a Quranic
Let
verse,
me
bro.
rephrase it. The verse speaks about divorcing a child before she reaches puberty.
No, after puberty.
Wrong.
Oh, is it? Yeah. After puberty, bro. That's one thing you lot have been getting wrong in this park. I don't
Okay,
know why.
let's do this.
Kalam broke this one down still. I know they man they think he's a pagan, but he definitely broke down that one well.
Right. Why?
Okay. Yes, after puberty.
Okay, the verse, right? The verse we want to speak about is.
Mr. Rax TV, TNT.
Are you listening, bro?
Yeah,
you
I'm
listening?
listening.
The verse we want to speak about is Surah 65:4. And I'm going to read the Hilali and KANE translation. Highly regarded translation. And this is an excerpt from it. It says, and for those who have no courses, do you know what courses are? Courses is like a woman's period, yeah? That's what it says. And those who don't have any period, so it's calling them courses, that's a word for it. For those who have no courses, i.e., they are still immature. Their iddah, now the iddah is how long a Muslim woman or child, according to Islam, is supposed to wait after they've been divorced to marry again. It's a waiting period, and that is usually 3 months. So it's giving you instructions in this verse how long each category of woman should wait. And it says, for those who are still immature and have not had their courses yet, the iddah is 3 months. Now, to clarify it, brother, I'm going to go to Muhammad's cousin, one of the top tafsir, Ibn Abbas, and he explains this verse.
Yeah, but that verse doesn't say that you can sleep with
He
a
explains
girl.
it, he clarifies
Yeah,
it.
but bro, you're going to tafsirs. I'm saying that verse
Brother.
does not say you can have sex with a girl when she's underage. It doesn't say that.
You let me, yeah, I'm gonna touch on it, but you have to be willing.
After puberty.
You have,
I've broken that down.
you have to be willing, brother, to at least let me touch on the references and then refute it, right? So let me go to Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas is highly regarded, second probably to Ibn Kathir, says, and for such of your women who despair of menstruation because of old age, if in doubt about their waiting period shall be 3 months. Upon which another man asked, O Messenger of Allah, what about the waiting period of those who do not have menstruation because they are too young?
So this is
Along with those, Ibn Abbas.
That's fair, alright, cool.
You can't see it on there. Ibn Abbas tafsir for verse 65, 4 in the Quran. Right. Ibn Kathir gives the same. He says, and for those who have not reached the years of menstruation. And in the Hadith, it confirms this also. Right?
Yo, what's your 3 questions,
Right.
Sid?
So what we're talking about here if you go to the Quran, back to the Quran in verse 65:4, Sheikh Ali translation says, and if you're in doubt as to the prescribed period for those of your women who have despaired of monthly courses, right? Then know that the prescribed period for them is 3 months. These are probably women, what's that? When women get too old, they no longer have period. Menopause, thank you, right? The prescribed waiting period is 3 months. And then it gives another category. And also for such as do not have their monthly courses yet. As for those who are with child, the waiting period shall be until they are delivered of their burden. And Allah, and who fears Allah, he will provide facilities for him in this affair. So here we have, you have to put all the information together. Now, I don't believe in this, but this is the deen. You have the Quran and you have the scholars confirming that if a child... Wait, 30 seconds, bro. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, then you can respond. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, bro. You have the Quran and you have the Hadith confirming what I'm saying. So if you're still in doubt, then you have to look at the behavior of the flagship of Islam. You have to look at what Muhammad did to see if this makes sense.
Yeah.
And Aisha, by her own words, said that the Prophet took her into his house before she reached puberty.
But obviously, that's what I'm saying. So let's go. Let's go to all the Muslim countries and see the six that they have 6 or 6-year-olds.
No, brother.
It has to follow, bro. It has to follow. If you're saying that's the legality,
yes,
and all Muslims believe that that's okay, then that has to follow in Muslim countries and Muslim actions. And it doesn't.
It does.
Not under
and
law.
I'll tell you,
not
it
under
does.
law. Morocco, you have to be 18 before. Morocco is a Muslim country. You have to be 18 before you have sex.
Listen to what I'm saying.
That's a Muslim country. So what I'm saying is it definitely doesn't follow, bro. And differently from that, yeah, people...
no, don't change the topic, brother. Don't change the topic. Stay on this topic, because you just made a comment about Morocco.
Yeah, go on, Sid.
Right, so we're talking about countries that operate under Sharia law. Is there Sharia law in Morocco?
There's Sharia law ain't really anywhere.
Are you a Muslim, sir?
I'm Muslim.
Is there Sharia law in Morocco?
Sharia law ain't being practiced properly.
Right.
Anyway.
So now we have to.
As far as I know, I don't know.
So now we have to go to the countries who are under Sharia law, because that's when the muftis step up and go, "This is the fatwa, and you lot are going to live by this law. Otherwise, you're going to either get stoned 100 lashes or you're going to get beheaded."
Can I say one thing?
Now, let me finish. You're welcome to come in after. You're welcome to come in after, right? You have to go to the countries that are living under Sharia law to see if this is being practiced. Yeah. You have to go to Saudi Arabia. Yeah. You have to go to let's go to somewhere like Pakistan. Read up on Pakistan, living under Sharia, right? Operating, and see how young brothers are selling off their sisters to their cousins to get married. Read up on it, brother.
But France is the same thing and they're not a Muslim country.
No, I'm talking about Sharia law, bro. Sharia law.
I hear you.
Yeah,
but
they
the
operate.
Christians, they were saying that Mary was 11 years old. They were doing the same
So we're talking about Mary.
No,
this is why I said that I'm willing to talk about Christianity.
No,
Let me answer about Mary.
I'm saying because you're dealing with.
You want to answer about Mary, or you just trying to?
No,
you want to answer about Mary?
No, what I'm saying is, yeah, when them man had blasphemy laws in Ireland and all them things, yeah.
Stop defending something that don't rate you as something right, bro. Stop defending something that you know in your heart is wrong, bro. Stop defending it.
In terms of